Welcome to Weekly Toy Digest, where we talk about various toy topics, from news, photography advice, and the like. Well, the time has finally come. After 3 or so years after it was first revealed, the SH Figure Awards for GeatsIX has finally been announced. And as of writing, said figure is now up for pre-order. Without further ado, let's head on over to the Tomashi blog to see further details. So here's the Tomashi blog for GeatsIX, and let's start with this image. Man, this is just so cool. With the shushing hand and the glowing eyes and whatnot. I will never forget everything in this world. As the Desire Grand Prix draws to a close, the nine-tailed white fox descends upon a world that is being enveloped in the grand end of ruin and chaos. What this is referring to is the debut episode of GeatsIX. And yeah, it's actually pretty fitting. So, first image is here. What I love about this is that, unlike with most Kamen Rider eyes, which are mostly compounded details, or rather compound details, GeatsIX is pretty much akin to, well, his eyes are pretty much akin to the type you'd see in most super robot media. I don't know, he just gives off that sort of vibe. Combined with the white line, combined with the white and the orange, or possibly red, he actually has a very aggressive face. What with how it works. And how it looks. And here's the Geatsbuster QB9. Now, like with the DX toy and the on-screen prop, it's basically unpainted on one side. So, well, a bit unfortunate, but that's just how it goes. Actually, I love the vent details on the chest, because it reminded me a lot of the Gundam F91 for some reason, because that too had a torso for a... actually, it had vent torsos on there as well. And here's another GeatsIX image, and it's... yeah, you can say he's ore farming, as the kids say these days. But yeah, I can never forget the day this first aired, and I can pretty much say it with confidence that this is just the coolest thing ever. Moving on, here's the full body of GeatsIX. So yeah, this is a very fitting final form for Geats. Not only is it very clean, but it's also very cohesive as well. It's actually pretty fitting for a Kitsune-themed rider. Here's the front and back shots. And yes, we will talk about that cape in a little while. Because, yeah, it's something pretty interesting. Would you believe it's like 3 years since it was first revealed? Yeah, I'd believe you. And... yeah. Here's another image of GeatsIX. Still looking cool as always. Here's another image, which we've kind of already seen before. And now... oh yeah, almost forgot. So, about that belt. You may have noticed that the outer rims on the levers are unpainted. I wouldn't be surprised if this was left out in the final release. Who knows? Okay, now we can talk about that cape. So according to the blog, it's actually made out of a soft material which allows it to unfold and flutter just like in the movie. So it's kind of like, if you remember Cross Gates, which ironically came out before this, it actually works very similarly. It's a more soft plastic that's very flexible, as opposed to like the. It's kind of in sharp contrast to what Tycoon Bujin Sword did. So that's a plus. Here's another image of the Geatsbuster QB9 in both its railgun and blade modes. Still kind of find it funny this is a retool of the Magnum Shooter 40X, but with the blade attached. Hey, you gotta make use of those retools while you can. This one's my favorite image of Geats 9 because it really is pretty obvious that this is just very. It just conveys the coolness of Geats 9 with barely any effort. Excuse me. More Geats 9 images. Here's him brandishing his Geatsbuster QB9. And here's him doing a kick, which just shows off the articulation in this. So if you aren't familiar with how the Geats SHFs work, it's pretty much what you would expect from these. And then we get to this one. This is actually my favorite accessory out of the bunch because this is so iconic. Honestly, this is the most iconic moment in Geats' in all of Geats, like the later stages of Geats anyway, because he literally just is so cool that he is able to stop the entire theme song midway. And that is just so cool. Here it is from another angle. And we end with what I could consider the coolest image I've seen in a while. And as of writing, or rather as of recording, this thing is currently out of stock. That's how you know how popular this is. And this is how you know how highly anticipated it is. So let's head on over to the order page to see more pictures. This one would make for a pretty good profile pic, so not much to say there. Yeah, he's just standing there menacingly. About what I expect from Geats 9. Here he is with more images of the Geatsbuster QB9. And yeah, here's that unpainted side I mentioned earlier. Yeah, kind of unfortunate, but oh well. Here he is doing a rider kick. Here's that iconic moment from earlier that I mentioned earlier. And here he is fighting Tycoon Bujin Sword. This is also another iconic moment when in the latter half of Geats. And then we get to the lineup so far. We have Nago Fantasy, the aforementioned Tycoon Bujin Sword, Geats 9, and Buffa Zombie Fever Jamashin. And man, seeing Buffa right there just makes me wish we eventually got Implosion Rage. But, hey, that's just how it is. And we end with a very striking image of Geats 9. So that is Geats 9. The fact this came out of Tamashi Purgatory at all is kind of a miracle in of itself. And honestly, I'm kind of grateful for that. Sure, it sold out way more than I mean, yeah, it sold out so quickly. But that just proves how highly anticipated it is. As for me, sadly, I don't think I could be able to get around to this because I have, like, well, it's largely due to my own financial limitations. Because I only had, like, one figure in mind for pre-order, and that's SHF Gavon Infinity. Regardless, that being all said, I'm just glad all of Geats' forms, barring command form, is pretty much rounded off. Well, having said that though, there are a few gaps left to fill. Namely, the command form, the aforementioned Buff Implosion Rage, and Glare 2. Premium Baroba and Premium Kekara are kind of out of the question since, like, Kaijins are a rarity these days when it comes to SHFs, unless they're major characters. But, hey, I'm glad Geats 9 got the chance to come out. And, well, that is it for... And ultimately, that's all that matters. So that ends Weekly Toy Digest. This particular edition of Weekly Toy Digest. And this has been the Photoverse Project, signing out. Peace.